Mr. Lajçak, thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk ahead of your visit to Kosovo. Just before you confirmed your visit, you were under fire for the way how Kosovo was displayed in the map that hangs in your office. You came out in your Twitter account with an explanation, but can you again clarify how is the geopolitical position of Kosovo in this map?
You know that in my profession we work with maps a lot, so therefore I requested the services in charge to provide me a map of the Western Balkans, which they did, and that's the map I got. And this is not a map that wanted to offend anyone. This is the map that reflects the well-known European Union position, and I certainly had no intention to offend anyone. And this emotional reaction is yet another proof to me how much we need a normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia.
However, the position of Kosovo from Brussels' perspective is well known. The European Union doesn't recognize Kosovo as an independent state. The reason is 5 non-recognizers, out of which 1 non-recognizer is Slovakia, where you come from. How do you respond to the critics who say that you cannot be an honest broker as you come from one of the non-recognizers?
Yes, I have worked in the Balkans and with the Balkans long enough to know how popular the conspiracies are there. And of course, what I hear from Kosovo is that I cannot be neutral because I come from Slovakia and therefore I will be on the side of Belgrade. What I hear from Belgrade is that I cannot be neutral because I come from Slovakia and I will want to prove that I am not on the side of Belgrade and therefore I will be on the side of Kosovo. What I want to say is that I'm representing the European Union. I represent the 27 members of the European Union. I have my mandate from the European Union, and I have to make sure that every member of the European Union feels well represented by what I do. So that's one thing. It would be highly unprofessional of me to have my EU mandate and to promote views or positions of one member state or a small group of member states. And second, let us not judge people by where they are born, but rather by the work. And we have lots of work together, and there will be enough opportunities to judge how well we did.
Yeah, but I have to ask now, as you represent 27 of them, now, according to 22, Kosovo is independent state. According to 5, Kosovo is not independent state. Now, how is this representation of yours displayed in your efforts to be a facilitator of this process?
For me, what is the most important is that all 27 believe in European future of the entire Western Balkan region, including Kosovo. That's why Kosovo signed the Stabilization Association Agreement. That's why I was appointed. That's why European Union is the leading international actor to get the normalization of relations, because with normalization of relations, Kosovo can start a real European integration process, and the recognitions will follow. So this is very important. European Union as such does not recognize states. It's the member states' right and competence. European Union has to reflect the views of member states in its policy, but European Union is a major partner, is a good friend of Kosovo. It invests a lot, it helps a lot, and believes in European future for Kosovo and for its people. And this is what we do, and this is what counts. This is what is most important.
You will visit Kosovo, and you will find Kosovo with completely new political landscape as a result of elections that were held 2 weeks ago. Now you have a clear winners, and those people will be most likely your future interlocutors in the process of the dialogue. How is the fact that now you will have in front of you a prime minister who has the support of a majority of citizens make your efforts easier in attempts to reach the comprehensive agreement?
It is very important because the dialogue on normalization of relations is such an important process that you need a partner who has a strong support in the government, in the parliament, and also among the population, so that the partner can make decisions and can make sure the decision will get through the institutions and will be supported by public. So this certainly helps, of course, and one of the reasons why I'm traveling this time is exactly to meet with Mr. Kurti, to hear from him his plans, including about the dialogue, and also to convey to him the expectations, I would say, messages from the European Union, from the member states, and to discuss together how to take the dialogue forward. But I'm also going to meet other political leaders and to ask them to make sure that they also support the dialogue, because dialogue is not an issue of a prime minister of a government. Dialogue is really important for every political party and for every citizen of Kosovo, because dialogue is about European future.
However, this doesn't seem to be the case for incoming Prime Minister, Mr. Albin Kurti, who repeatedly stated that it's not among his top priorities.
Look, I definitely would not overestimate this kind of statement. Mr. Kurti rightly said that he wants to focus on things that his voters and citizens see as problems, issues related to economy, social standards, corruption, judiciary, and that's fine. But Mr. Kurti also knows that international community and European Union expects the continuation of the dialogue. So that there is nothing new for him. And you know, there is no government that deals with one issue only. So this is exactly what we will be discussing, how to place all these priorities. And you know, we already have our experience with Mr. Kurti as a prime minister, and he was a constructive interlocutor. After all, it was him who removed the tariffs and made it possible to start the dialogue. So, and also the cooperation on the health issues also showed a great level of constructive approach. So therefore, there is no need to try to make sensations of where there is no sensation.
We know that Mr. Kurti is yet to be appointed as a prime minister. You already stated that you don't intend to organize a new round before there are established proper institutions of Kosovo. When do you envisage the first Kurti-Vučić meeting? Are you waiting only for the formation of government, or you need to wait for the election of president as well?
You know, our position has always been that we are always ready whenever the parties are ready. And that's exactly one of the issues that I will be discussing with Mr. Kurti and other partners in Pristina and in Belgrade, basically to understand when we can continue the dialogue at the level of the leaders. We have made it very clear several times. We don't want to force any timelines. We don't want to artificially rush the process, but at the same time, we believe that to slow it down is not in interest of Kosovo or Serbia, and the standstill is definitely not in the interest of your people. And that's why we expect, and the European Union member states do expect, the continuation of the dialogue at the appropriately reasonable time. And what this means is exactly one of the goals of my trip.
However, this process of yours was stalled in September, excluding few meetings of experts. The high-level meeting happened on 12th of July, 16th of July, and then on 7th of September, when Serbian side opened the question of association, to which Kosovo side, Prime Minister Hoti agreed, but then meetings never happened again. Is it now the time to explain us what happened, in fact, in the September meeting?
Yes, but let me start by saying that this is not the process of ours. This is the process of the dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia, facilitated by the European Union. We are here 24/7, but of course, it's the two parties who decide the speed of the process. And at the same time, there has to be a political situation conducive to a serious dialogue process. And yes, we resumed the dialogue after 18 months in July. We had 2 meetings, then we had another good meeting in September. But after that, despite his goodwill, Prime Minister Hoti saw that he does not have the necessary political support to continue discussing sensitive issues. So we had 3 more meetings at the level of chief negotiators, but it was clear that the Kosovo society was already focused on other issues at that time, and it made no sense to bring the leaders and to try to discuss sensitive issues. So this is exactly why we also have to respect the political realities. And since September, there was not sufficient level of political unity in Kosovo for the continuation of the dialogue and for addressing sensitive issues. And almost every issue in the dialogue is a sensitive issue. So that's why I feel that we have a new momentum now, and we can bring a new fresh energy into the dialogue.
These sensitive issues obviously imply association of Serb municipalities in Kosovo, something that outgoing government didn't push forward, and is something that will be some kind of hot potato for the new government. You and all European officials claim that it is unavoidable topic in this dialogue. However, in attempts to find a solution on this, should the opinion of Constitutional Court of Kosovo be taken into account?
Well, first of all, there is a well-known ancient principle saying that pacta sunt servanda, that means what was agreed should be implemented. And you know very well, as well as I do, that there was an agreement on establishing the Association or Community of Serbian Municipalities already back in 2013, which was overwhelmingly ratified by the Assembly of Kosovo. And then there was another agreement adopted in 2015, and then there is a decision of the Constitutional Court. All these needs to be taken and will be taken into account, but we need to take the process, to move the process forward, and we need to find a solution. The two parties need to find a solution here, but we have no intention to ignore any of these important acts. But as I said, this is a commitment which was made, and we need to find a way together in the dialogue with Kosovo and Serbia how to implement it. And let me also add what I said several times before, but it is certainly not in the interest of the European Union to introduce any element that would have a negative impact on the functionality of the constitutional and legislative system of Kosovo.
You have stated several times, even in your last visit in Belgrade, if I'm not mistaken, that the comprehensive agreement on normalization of relations would require or should require constitutional changes. Can you clarify what do you mean by that? And will there be other surprises after association? Are there new sensitive topics to be brought up which will not be that popular among the citizens?
I'm glad you asked this question because it gives me an opportunity to say once again what I was referring to, namely that it is a usual practice in international negotiations that when you negotiate and conclude an international agreement, then you have to implement these provisions of this agreement also into your own national legal system. So you have to change the laws, sometimes the constitution. So it's a principle. So we are not saying you must do it. We are saying it might be the case that you will do it, as Kosovo has done it before. Kosovo, for example, when the Assembly adopted the law on the specialist chamber, then it opened its constitution and made it part of its constitution. When most recently, when Kosovo joined the Istanbul Convention, then again incorporated it into its constitution. So this is what I'm saying, that normalization of relations is a huge endeavor, and in the end, it is quite likely that after the agreement has been signed, you will have, both parties will have to make sure that their national legislation is in accordance, because this is how it works in practice, that you have to adjust your national legislation according to your international commitments. So this is what we are saying. This is this is not a surprise. This is a well-known principle, which we are saying it might happen because this is the logic of the process. But we are not saying it must happen, or we are not saying because of this or because of that. First, let's focus on the good agreement on normalization of relations, and then both parties will look into this agreement and ask themselves, what does it mean for our national legislation? What does it mean? Which laws do we have to change? Do we have to change the constitution? So this is what I'm saying.
In your answers, you mainly refer to the Kosovo constitution, but is there something, hypothetically asking, that Serbia as well should change in its constitution?
Absolutely, of course, and Serbia is not hiding that the change of the constitution is on the table. Obviously, we both know that the preamble of the Serbia's constitution is saying that Kosovo is part of Serbia. So it's clear, and so this is a recognized principle. And as I said, that we expect that this will happen because this is what has happened also in Kosovo in many other countries. This is normal when you join an international convention or sign an international agreement. Then you have to reflect it into your national legislation. So it's not a new conditionality or anything like that. It's something Kosovo knows very well.
Your predecessors had a tough job, you can imagine, because you're now into this process for almost a year. Kosovo political leaders that were part of this process admitted that at one point land swap was on the table. You, as foreign minister of Slovakia at the time, were even against that idea. Now, as you are dealing directly with the process, can you confirm that this issue is off the table? Or as a facilitator, you can agree on anything that parties agree on?
No, because I see our role, European Union role as a facilitator, also in making sure that whatever is agreed brings Kosovo and Serbia closer to the European Union. So we are looking for a European solution. The Western Balkans are part of Europe and they will be part of the European Union. So I'm not in favor of solutions which are specially made for the Western Balkans, because that would mean that we do not see them as part of our European family. And European states are multi-ethnic democracies. European states do not change borders according to ethnic lines. This is the philosophy of the 19th century. And European Union has been present in the Balkans heavily for so many years, trying to bring European standards. So for me, agreeing on the land swap, on changing the borders according to the ethnic lines, would also mean that we have given up on the European future for the Western Balkans. And I don't want to see that, because I have spent so many years of my professional life bringing the Western Balkans closer to the European Union. So I'm very clear and very explicit on this. Our role is to produce European solution, European agreement, and European agreement is the agreement that is based on European principles. And land swap and changing the borders according to the ethnic principles is definitely not a modern European solution.
When you were appointed last April, one cannot say that you would have that much welcomed from the American side as well, because they were already conducting a parallel process, parallel to the European one. Relations were polarized, and in terms of dialogue, it was going on two tracks. Brussels track, which was in stalemate, and Washington track, which was completely parallel without any consultation with Brussels. Now we have new administration in Washington, which already confirmed its support for you personally, your efforts. Are you seeing these positive signals implemented in your daily job, or you'll still wait for the American engagement? And how do you see this new American engagement in the process?
We have a long and successful history of European Union and United States working very closely together in the Western Balkans. I personally have been part of this history for the last 20 years, and I can testify to the fact that everything that we achieved to do was thanks to this closest possible cooperation. And we have never had any doubts that the final or the end goal of this cooperation is to bring the Western Balkans to the European Union. We had a very unfortunate situation in the last 2 years when there was some kind of competition, or we didn't want to compete, but there was clearly a lack of cooperation, not with the US administration, but with a few people there. And it made no one happy, and particularly the region. And when I was in Pristina in June, I was asked by every interlocutor, what does it mean? And I was told by so many of them, we don't want to choose between the European Union and the United States. And my answer was, we don't want you to choose. But it looked like there were two parallel tracks. So I'm therefore very happy that the new administration made it very clear from the very beginning that they are fully behind the European Union's effort in the Western Balkans. They are fully behind the European integration of the Western Balkans. They fully support the EU facilitated dialogue on normalization of relations. My mission, we are in very close contact with our American friends. We have seen statements from a number of senior officials of the new administration. And I think this is exactly what we need. And this is what should send a very, I would say, positive and calming message to the region, that there is no competition. We are not proving anything to each other. We are working hand in hand to speed up the European process, European integration of the Western Balkans of Kosovo.
Last question, your mandate ends in 1 month's time, on 31st of March. When you took over, you said that agreement is feasible within months. That was said by even previous officials that were dealing with the dialogue. Brussels journalists were quoting for years European officials saying that this year is the decisive year. However, this is not possible to happen until end of this mandate. Will you get another mandate? And are you shifting the terminology and not mentioning months anymore?
Look, what is different with this leadership of the European Union is that there is a commitment to bring this process to an end, to a successful end. That means to achieve what is defined as a comprehensive agreement on normalization of relations between Kosovo and Serbia that will solve all outstanding issues once and forever, which will be in line with the international law, European Union acquis, which will help to calm down and stabilize the region and bring the parties closer to the European perspective. For the first time, there is a senior EU official appointed basically to look after the process 24/7, to assist the High Representative in the maximum level possible with this process, to make sure that we do not have ups and downs, we do not have periods of focus and then periods when other issues are in the center of attention. So this is a new situation, and I am committed, of course, to the dialogue 24/7. Again, there were all kinds of speculations about this one-year mandate. Does it mean we have to finish until end of March? EU special representatives are, as a rule, appointed for 1 year, and as a rule, their mandate is rolled over or extended for another year, so that because that's the policy. So the process of the extension is already going on for a couple of weeks. It has never been an issue. It never had any impact on the dialogue. The 31st of March has always been a very symbolic date, which really had no impact on our planning or on our thinking. So as long as we believe that what we do makes sense and is bringing us closer to the goal, then of course we will continue. I also said that I believe that the process can be concluded within several months. But this does not mean that I'm the one who decides. We are here, but it's the two parties who decide how fast they are able and willing to proceed. So how often they are able and willing to come to Brussels. We are here ready. I'm ready to come to Pristina, to come to Belgrade, whenever. So to make sure that it's not the EU who is slowing down the process, but it's the parties who decide. And we, of course, encourage them, because the status quo benefits no one, and certainly not the people. And we need a normalization. We need to, to focus on other issues. And of course, the current state of relations is complicating many things. So this is what we are here to try to achieve. And I'm an optimist. I really believe it's doable.
Mr. Lajçak, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.